Okay, so now that we have completed psychosexual stages, the next key concept that you have to understand about Sigmund Freud is transference and countertransference. This is an important thing that Freud brought into understanding. That is, the transference is client projects feelings from the past relationship into the therapist. See, because whenever so you need to be very clear about the therapeutic relationship. So therapeutic relationship is very unique relationship. It has nothing to do see, for example, even mm, what do you call, see, there are different kinds of relationship, right? You have friendship, you have mother child relationship, brotherly or sibling relationship, husband wife relationship. There are a lot of different kind of relationship, teacher student relationship. But the therapeutic relationship is completely very different, because therapeutic relationship is purely based on therapy, therapeutic goal. It's towards therapeutic goal and nothing more. There is nothing called dual relationship in therapeutic, connection, because when there is dual relationship, it will not, help us to achieve the goal. See, that's why if even if a person was a client and you get to meet them in another circumstance, like in a gathering or somewhere, you should not be the first person to identify them as a counselor. If only they are willing to come and identify themselves with you, that's totally fine. But even in that circumstances, you should not, get back to the um, the therapeutic mode to ask, how are you doing? How are things? No, nothing of that sort. Just hi, hello, and how are things? That's all. So you need to be very careful about therapeutic relationship, because therapeutic relationship is for to attain the therapeutic goal. Okay, you have to keep this in mind. So transference, Freud says that when this relationship gets formed in the therapy, the client, they project, again, it's a defense mechanism. They project the feelings from the past. Somewhere, this kind of characteristics, the characteristics of the character of the therapist will resonate with some of their past relationships and associations, and they try to project it on that relational bonding. They try to project it on the therapist. See, usually what happens is, if the client feels your presence as a motherly presence or a fatherly presence, or sometime it will become romantic, or it's some, those are certain kind of relationship which, as counselors, you need to be very aware of. If you feel that the relationship tone and the tune and the texture of the relationship is changing, you need to be very careful to set the boundaries. You should be very clear in setting limits and how to tune things, track things back to the therapeutic purpose. Okay, so countertransference, he says, like sometimes if therapists are not aware or intentional about the therapeutic relationship, if you're not trained well for the purpose, what happens is the therapist emotional reaction to the client may also come up in the session if the unconscious material of the therapist is not worked out. See, that's why we are focusing on how, as a therapist, you need to know or be consciously aware of your unconscious patterns. See, otherwise, therapeutic relationship is going to end up as another kind of relationship where the client will get to cling with you and you will be clinging to the client. If the client is not doing well, if there is something happening, you will be carrying the burden of the client, and after the session, you will be still holding the client in your you know in your pocket, in your back. So that is not how the therapeutic relationship works. Okay, so this is concepts that Freud brought out. Okay, so in a therapeutic relationship, there are chances of transference, and if therapists are not aware, there is also chances of therapeutic counter transference. Okay, so um, 1 second. Okay, so in general, to understand what Freud is trying to say is, you know, the way he viewed the view of people by Freud is deterministic, conflict driven. Okay, so that is a lens through which he he perceives human conflicts or the clients, and his focus is always unconscious patterns, sexuality patterns, and past trauma. Okay, so the therapy style is insight through interpretation. In the sense, he asks questions, he interrogates, and through what the interpretation the client gives, he gets the insight, and from through that he builds the uh, therapeutic process. So, view of change is through insight into unconsciousness. So he feels when a client gets a glimpse or understanding about the unconscious, then the view then there is the change starts. Okay, so the relationship according to Freud, the client counselor relationship is hierarchical. Okay, analyst, analyzed. Okay, so he's very clear in that kind of. So the other therapist who came after Freud, they said it's not hierarchical. I know. But Freud's state is it's always relational. I mean, hierarchical is what he says. Okay. Okay, clear. Okay, now, how counseling procedure or process will look like when it comes through Freudian lens. Okay, so therapeutic relationship, as I mentioned, the therapist maintains a neutral position. So this is for all therapies. Okay, as a therapist, you have to hold on to a neutral position. You should not get into this right or wrong sides, but you have to stay neutral and facilitate the process. If you are getting into, that's why, as therapist, you have to get trained. So you have to listen to the video about the characteristics of a therapist. Okay, so in that, there is one main thing is the client should be, I mean, the counselor should be, or the therapist should be neutral. They should not get biased by any, they should not fall sides. Okay, so that's one thing, and it is a non-directive stance in the sense. So how Freud used to conduct the therapy is he just asks people to lie down on a couch, uh, just relaxed, and then he asked the clients to encourage the clients to speak freely without any censoring. See, you come to counseling, he makes the client to lie down on the couch and just start speaking. He just encourages them to start speaking because Freud is we call it as Freudian slip. That is, anything that the client says, okay, when he is given that calm or a quiet or a free position, it is coming from unconscious. We don't take it as a slip of tongue. No, he says it has some meaning unconsciously. Okay, so that is how he sees. So it is always non-directive stance. He will not give you any directions how you what you have to speak and things like that. No. So he gives a non-directive stance, and in that the client, okay, he or she will project their unconscious feelings onto the therapist, and therapist catches it, and from there gets to the unconscious instead of giving the counter transference. Okay, so the focus of relationship is healing. So that is how we have to work on with the Freudian perspective. And free association, as I mentioned, he calls it as free association, where the client is encouraged, after making the client to lie down, the client is encouraged to speak freely, without any, censoring, like without understanding, not being very conscious of what she is speaking. Okay, so what as the therapist listens to the hidden meaning of the conversation. Why is this client speaking this right now? And what are the slips? Or is there any resistance that the client is experiencing while he's sharing some things? Okay, so that is one predominant component of key component of Freudian therapeutic process. And dream analysis. So he's very clear in he feels like a dream is a royal road to unconscious, is what he says. Because when you're sleeping, when your brain waves changes, when you are in a sleep mode, the pre-conscious state becomes a kind of, it gives way for the unconscious to come out. to be, to become consciously aware, in the sense in sleep. When I'm saying consciously aware, it comes out as dream, and certain dreams are repeated, certain dreams are remembered, some are not remembered, with all the clues. Like he would talk about the dreams, like how often it comes, what is the pattern of the dreams, and what is the emotion that the person carries after the dream, and all those things is what his focus. And he always works with, he interprets the dream as manifest content and latent content, in the sense. So manifest content is, I was chased by an elephant, or I saw a snake, or he may say that I wanted to um, I want to appear for an examination, but by the time I reached, the examination hall got closed, or I lost something like that. There will be some repetition patterns. So he gets the storyline, and then he works on the symbolic representations on it, the latent meaning, the shadow of why it is. Because what he says is about dream is when, for example, if I get in my dream, I dream about my mom. Then he says it is not directly about your mom, it is about the characteristics with which I have associated with my mom, okay? Or the feelings or emotions that I have with my mom is what is expressed in the dream. Okay, so it may not be directly happening with my mom or directly what is going to happen in the future, but those dreams are something that I have associated with people of that characteristics. Okay, so that kind of interpretation is what he does. That is called a latent symbolic meaning. And so again, his process of interpretation is he interprets through symbols, slips, defenses, and relational dynamics, because his goal is to get insight through unconscious. So to get the insight of unconscious, he always uses interpretation, interpreting the symbols, the latent meaning, and all those things. So, moreover, how he works the storyline of a content, because Freudian psychoanalytic counseling goes for months. It is not, it was not it was not, easy. Like it was not time bound. It goes for months, and a long process, because he goes in for repetitive analysis over time to process and resolve repressed conflicts. Because unless the pattern is found out, you cannot find the core beliefs. The unconscious patterns is what he strongly believes. So he will not come up with one or two things. Like he sends the client back and gets the waits for the same kind of dream if the client gets, or something like that. He waits for the repetitive process, and he repeats the process over time and gets the data. And that's what, as I said, this can take years in traditional psychoanalysis. Okay, so that is how Freudian works. Neat. Okay, hope you got some understanding about Freudian, because I don't want to get into the nuances and the details of Freudian. If you are interested in psychoanalysis, want to know more about psychoanalysis, definitely I will encourage you to, read some solid content. You can also contact me. I can give you, a few books which is thoroughly equips you for psychoanalysis. But with this information, you get to understand, it gives you some strategies and tools, and how to, it helps in the process of diagnosis, especially the stages, the preconscious levels, the personality types, the therapeutic process, all those things. If you are aware of it, then you can, take few things from here, few assessing things from here, and then form your own eclectic therapeutic or theoretical orientation. Okay, so thank you. In next video, we'll talk about the neo-Freudian techniques, or how this got evolved. Though people were not deviating much from psychoanalysis, still they differed few things from few concepts. Okay? So we'll see what are the neo-Freudian theories. Okay.